Sean Spicer, thank you so much for your time. Kamala Harris has now gone through 1/3 of her time as the candidate in this election without telling anyone what she'd really do as president, without giving a single press conference, without giving a single interview to a journalist. What is she hiding, do you think?
I mean, it could be a multitude of things, most likely a liberal past. But more than anything, I think the goal, Andrew, is to be everything to everyone. I'm for fracking if you think that's an issue, particularly if you live in Pennsylvania. I'm against it if you're a left-wing environmental nut. I'm for cracking down on corporations. Unless you're for them, then I'm against them too. I'm tough on crime. Unless you have a problem with that, then I bail out people from the BLM riots. I'm for an open border. Unless that's a problem, then I'm for a strong immigration system. She's been on both sides of every major issue. Look, I've said this before, Andrew. I've never in 30 years of political campaign work see any candidate from either side of the aisle get away with what she's getting away with. What you just enumerated was sort of the avoidance tactic. But through the use of surrogates and unnamed campaign staffers, she's able to sort of flip a switch and say, nope, I'm not for that, without actually doing the interview and using her own voice. So it's amazing the level to which she is unaccountable to the American people and to the media, who often complain about transparency and freedom of the press.
Well, this is all making the debate with Donald Trump that's scheduled for September 10 absolutely huge, maybe even decisive. I mean, the last debate knocked Joe Biden clean out of the race. It was such a disaster for him. This debate is going to be on ABC. We just saw that clip of how pro-Kamala the ABC is there. One of its top executives is also one of Kamala Harris's best friends. There is some debate about whether this debate will actually go ahead, some signs that it might not. What do you know about this?
Well, first, the point that you just made, Andrew, should not be understated. A top executive that oversees the news division is a very close personal friend of hers. That cannot get understated. I'm glad you brought that up. But secondly, one of the moderators, her name is Lindsay Davis, she was the questioner of Donald Trump the other day at that National Association of Black Journalists. So you're going up against a network and against a moderator and a team that literally hates you. OK, so let's just start with that premise. I think that this debate, I'm actually very nervous about that. Do I not think that Donald Trump can handle it? Absolutely not. Is he great at these things? Yes. But they understand what's at stake. They pushed Joe Biden out of the race, OK, at the last debate. They've now installed Kamala Harris. They're letting her get away with all of the things that you and I just spoke about. They are not going to let Donald Trump get the last word, if you will, at this debate. They are stacking the deck against him, and she is going to do one of those one-liners you saw, you know, if you go back and look at the tape about her debating Mike Pence, or when she tried to get those one-liners in, I was that girl, Mr. Vice President, accusing Joe Biden of racism and segregation policies. I am truly worried about this debate because they are stacking the deck so high against Trump that I don't know that anybody can overcome this. And I think Trump, rightly so, looks at these debates and says, look, I did Hillary Clinton. I did all those other, you know, amazing politicians on the Republican side in the primary. I've, you know, did Joe Biden and crushed him and pushed him out. But I'm telling you, this September 10th is going to be consequential in the race for president because the media wants it so badly to slam the door on Donald Trump's face that they're going to do everything they can in terms of the questioning, the response, highlighting her, you know, giving her the rules that she wants, highlighting the clips, fact-checking him, but not her. I mean, I'm telling you, this actually gives me a little bit of heartburn.
Now, Trump was boosted by the decision of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., once Democrat Party royalty, to quit his own election campaign as an independent and now back Donald Trump, despite all the terrible things they've said about each other. It was interesting, Sean, that CNN cut away from Kennedy's announcement that he was quitting and backing Trump as soon as he started criticising Kamala Harris. Have a listen.
Vice President Harris has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35 days.
We've been listening to independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from Phoenix outlining what led him to his quixotic quest for the White House.
Sean, how is Kennedy quitting and endorsing Trump going to affect this election?
First of all, it's just amazing. I mean, this goes to the point I was making a moment ago. It's like they want to cover it, but then the second that it might possibly benefit Trump from hearing an alternative perspective, it's like, let's cut away from that quick. Cut away from it. Cut away from it. Do not let the American people possibly hear something positive or negative, about Trump or negative against her. How is it going to impact? Here's the thing that people have to recognize. In the 7 battleground states where this election is going to be won or lost, the margin of victory in so many of the states is literally thousands. Like, Michigan in 2016 was 10,703. Wisconsin was 20-something, 22,000. Pennsylvania, 44,000. So you look at what RFK brings to the table, especially his support among young men who are low propensity voters, who I think when he throws his support to Trump, let's say it amounts to 0.5%, right? Maybe 1%. That's a huge amount in these battleground states where we're talking about thousands of votes making the difference. I think the proof to me in politics is always where you spend your time and money is where your priorities lie. And look at how much time and money the Democratic National Committee spent going after and attacking Robert F. Kennedy, suing him, spending millions of dollars trying to prevent him from getting on the ballot access. Now, it's a side note, but it is kind of funny coming from the people who love to preach about democracy. But the reality is, getting back to the broader point about priorities, they knew that he was a threat to their campaign and to their way and to their election. And so they were spending time and money preventing Kennedy from getting on the ballots and from advancing his campaign. They know that it benefits Donald Trump. And I think that Kennedy backing him could have a consequential effect in those key states.
Sean, finally, what are the polls telling you right now about where this election, how it's tilting one way or the other?
Yeah, it's a great question that you're asking, Andrew, and that's kind of leads off of the last answer. It is a tight race that I think will be decided by thousands of votes in those 7 states. And it's going to be like a little EKG monitor for the next 70 days here in America. One day, Trump will be up a little in one of the states, then it'll be Kamala up by a state or two, and then down or whatever. But when I did this map, so 270 electoral votes on my podcast, if people want to go back and look at it, where I went state by state, west to east, north to south, every state. And I can play out scenarios that show Donald Trump winning with 300 electoral votes, and I can show you a tie, 269 electoral votes to 269 electoral votes, where the House of Representatives in America would decide the outcome of the election. The point is, this is going to be close. And I think that you're going to see a little bit of up and down between now and the election. The one last thing I will tell you is that I keep saying that I think there's a bunch of X factors. What does Iran do? What does North Korea do? What does Russia and how does the Ukraine situation play out right now? Does Putin maybe go on some newfound offensive? Does China become more provocative in the South China Sea? You saw just tonight them dealing with sending a plane into the Japanese airspace. And how does the Harris team react to real world results? Because she's untested. She can get away with a lot of things, but I think if there's a real world crisis, remaining silent won't be an option. And if she chooses to, that will speak volumes. But I believe that there's 1 or 2 X factors left between now and November 5th that could really shake this election one way or the other.
Well, we shall see. I think it's a white-knuckle ride. And what I'd really appreciate is to have some clue as to whether it's going to be a moderate Kamala Harris that would become president if she wins, or it's going to be going back to the old hard left one that was rated the most liberal.
Yeah, at the end of the day, she will default to the liberal nut job that she is. But in the interim, she will tell you whatever you want to hear. If you want her to be that moderate, tough on crime, strong on the border Democrat, well, she'll be that to you. If you want to hear the progressive, crazy, leftist, environmental whack job, she'll be that to you. She will be whomever you need her to be between now and Election Day to get power. It's all about power to her. It's about winning and power. She'll say and do whatever she needs to say in the interim.
Well, I'm all agog as to who will win the election. Is it Donald Trump? Is it Kamala Harris, the moderate? Or is it Kamala Harris, the far left candidate? It could be any one of those three. Sean Spicer, thank you so much for your time.
You bet, Andrew.